Hello, today a mate in 4, that is a huge problem, very interesting. I invite you to solve it. It's a little bit difficult, but it's possible. We begin immediately to have a look at what happens here. The c5 square is blocked by the black pawn. The d5 square is controlled by the bishop a8 and the pawn c4. e5 is controlled by the knight f7. The square e4 is controlled by the bishop. e3 is controlled by the two pawns f2 and d2. The square d3 is controlled by the knight, c3 by the pawn d2, and c4 by the knight b2. All the squares are or blocked or controlled. The black king cannot move at all. The black queen is controlling f4 to avoid immediate mate by the rook h4. Let's say that white just wait. If black answers by taking on d8 check, the king will go on g7, and then if the queen gives again check, for example here, you take, the pawn will take the rook for a queen or something else, and then you will have d8 gives mate. So if the black queen, instead of giving check, goes back to b8 to control f4, you have the same possibility of queening, and then you will give mate on f4. So the check to the white king is not sufficient for black. I just come back to the initial diagram. So if you go, let's say, to e1, this seems very active and positive, but now d8 check, king goes, and then any check by the queen, and if white takes the queen, you will have stalemate, because there is no more black move to be played. You have to find how to activate white, and you see that is not so evident, because the queen cannot move, the rook cannot move, the knight on b2 cannot move, nor the rook on h4. The knight on f7 controls e5 and cannot move. The bishop d8 is pinned. The bishop on a8 can move, but we can't see immediately what it should help, and then we are a little bit stuck. The key a6 a7, threatening to take the queen and queening for white. If you take and make a queen, white can answer and make a queen itself. This is threatening on f4. Black cannot go to e4, it doesn't help, because if you take, let's say, with the queen, you will have queen takes and rook takes, it will be mate. And if the queen takes on b2 the knight, giving two flights, the answer by white is queen takes on b3, taking back the two flights, and for example queen takes a1, rook takes on f4, and you have the mate in 4. But black can try some different things that are not very usual, but are quite interesting. For example, black can say, I will do a bishop, because now if you are queening with white, the bishop will come to e4, you will need to take on f4, but if queen takes or rook takes, because it's a bishop on e4, black cannot move, and it is stalemate, and then you are stuck with white. But white has a trick and can say, I also make a bishop. And if black goes to e4 now, searching for a stalemate, now white can take on f4 with the bishop, and then after the move of the black bishop, let's say like this, or bishop e3 or bishop e5, checkmate. Black can try another trick and say, okay, I'll make a rook. And once again, if you make a queen, now you'll have another problem. Rook takes b3, giving two flights, and if queen takes, rook takes b2, and if the queen takes on b3, because it's a rook on b2 and not a queen, black is stalemate, and once again white is stuck and cannot go on. If black makes a rook, white, instead of making a queen, will also make a rook. Rook takes b, giving two flights, but now white can answer rook takes on b3, taking d3, but letting c4 for the black king. The king goes. It is the only move black has. You have now queen a4. It gives that after promoting in rook for black, the good answer for white is promoting in rook also. And the last defense of the pawn a2 is to make a knight. And then again a queen is not possible, because knight takes on d2, giving a flight on c3, and you cannot go on so easily, because let's say queen takes the flight on c3, the knight goes to e4, and you have no mate. On that, white can answer by knight itself, threatening f4, so the knight can only take on d2 as a defense. As I showed, you take the flight c3 by playing the queen on c1, and then if the knight goes to any place, you will have rook f4 mate. So the knight goes to e4 in order to forbid rook takes f4, but then the blocking of the square can be useful for white, because the knight now can intercept the bishop and give mate in c6. So we have the main content of the problem, that is, after 4 promotions on b1, white must answer by the same 4 promotions of the pawn a7. This is the first problem that made this in a 4-mover, and it was a historical achievement. Now, if black queen takes on d8, we already saw this. The king goes, and then queen king takes, the a pawn takes on b1, and then you make a queen or a rook on d8. And if the queen comes back to c7, let's say, you will have a queen on d8. Let's say the queen goes to d6 or takes on d8, and then you will have rook takes on f4. If the queen goes to d6, rook e1, threatening to play on e4, and if the queen goes to e5, the knight takes, pawn takes, and rook mates. And if the queen goes to e5 immediately, you cannot play rook e1, because black has queen takes on f5, that is defending both e4 and f4, and then it will be a good defense. But on on this move, on queen goes to e5, you have bishop takes on e7, and then if black queens, you will have d8, a queen takes on d6. If the queen goes to d6, knight takes on d6, giving a flight and threatening bishop f6. And if the king goes to e5, you will have mate by double check, knight goes to d3. With this we have one more variation. It is queen takes on a8, and then you have rook takes on f4, queen e4, and a8 queen, and then after queen takes or any other move, queen gives mate on d5. That's the content. All the variations you will find beneath the video. You will find all the details, the full solution, and I hope you liked it. It's a very nice problem, as I said, huge content, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you. Bye.